Hi class, I wanted to introduce to you the second lesson in this module. It's on data classification. And so as I said before, I like a big picture and like why are you doing this? Why do we have to know the different types of data? And the reason that we do that is because different statistical tests are only valid for certain types of data. And so it's important that you know that from the outset, and so you know what you can do with it. Um, all right, so there's two parts to this little lecture, basic classification and then the levels of measurement. All right, so let's start here. The two main types of data are qualitative and quantitative, and you've probably heard that before. Qualitative data is like an attribute or a category, like hair color, or a type of car, like SUV or convertible, sedan. So if I wanted to take data on cars, that's one category, and that would be qualitative data. Quantitative data is like the word sounds, it's numeric. So anything that has a number, that represents a number, is quantitative data. And the last point I want to make between these two is, in research, when people refer to qualitative data, it's not so much about taking qualitative data and putting it in categories and counting those up, as much as getting a deep dive into what's happening. For example, I could say, how did this summer semester go? And I could take the average of the class, and that would be numeric. Or I could get you to fill out a survey that ranked things, and maybe you gave me a 3.5 out of 5. Okay, that's numeric. Or I could pick a few of you and say, tell me about your semester. How'd it go? What was it like to watch the videos and not have like your companions next to you, and then write that down, and then that's qualitative data right there. It's like I'm having a cup of coffee with you. So, in research, when you hear that qualitative data, you want to kind of think about it like that. And then anything that's numeric, researchers typically like to do numeric because it's a lot easier, a lot less time consuming, and it's more generalizable. But anyway, so let's go to this next section on levels of measurement. All right, I'll let you download this sheet so you have all the notes here if you want to just listen and jot down a few things. So there's 4 different levels of measurement, and it starts here. This is the lowest up to the highest, and as you go down, this is more rich. This has more rich data in it as far as what kind of calculations you can do. All right, so the first one is nominal. It's only qualitative data, and it's like I said, hair color, different categories you might pick. All right, and you can't do any computations with that. It is what it is, and so that's the lowest level. The one thing I want to warn you about is numbers that are actually labels. And so in your questions, like on the test and your homework, they might ask you things like, what's a social security number? Well, you would say that's numeric, right? But it's really a label, to label that in that taxpayer, you might say, or a social security recipient. Another one is zip codes, Can you do any calculations with zip codes? No, it signifies a particular area. Or jersey numbers. What's another trick? Telephone numbers, did I put that down? Telephone numbers. So any kind of even though it's a number, the reason I'm saying this, because these are trick questions, anything that's a number that is actually a label is nominal data. Okay, it's not numeric, it's not one of these other 3 categories. The next one down is ordinal. All right, so we're lowering down a little bit more info here, and it is can be qualitative or quantitative, and it's any data that can be ranked, like the top 5 movies, right? Or when you get a survey that says strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree, right? And it's 1 to 5 maybe. That's ordinal data, okay? And what distinguishes that is like you can't subtract the numbers and get anything meaningful. You can't take second place minus first place or fifth place minus third place. That doesn't mean anything to you. All right, so what does it say? Data can be arranged in order and ranked, but the difference is that subtraction doesn't make any sense. All right, next one down, the interval. All right, so this is one more level depth of measurement, right? We can do a little bit more with these numbers. These can be ordered, and when you subtract them, it makes sense, but you can't divide them. And another way the book says that is there's no inherent zero. So let's talk about that a little bit. You know what? Anytime you see a temperature, or year, for example, these are two that the book uses. So you see that. If you see that on your homework or test, just say that's interval data. So let's think about like a year. Can I subtract years and it makes sense? Like the Reds won the series in 1990, I think was the last time, and now it's 2023. So if I subtract 1990 from 2023, that's what, 33 years? Does that tell me anything? Tells me they haven't done very well, right? So that I can actually make a judgment on that. That makes sense. That's okay. So that's interval data. You can subtract things, but can you multiply them? Like 20? Can you divide them? Is the year 1,000 a half of the year 2,000? No. Doesn't. And what they talk about in the book is there's no inherent zero. The 0 year doesn't mean 0 time, or 0 degrees doesn't mean 0 heat. Maybe it does in the Kelvin scale, but not in the other ones. So like 0 degrees Fahrenheit is just 1 degree hotter than -1. It doesn't mean 0. So there's no inherent 0 in interval data, but you can subtract them, and that's meaningful to you. The next one, just to finish up here, is ratio data. And that's data tells you the most. You can do the most calculations with that. And that's basically any typical numeric data, like let's say area. What's the area of this room? It's 100 square feet. How tall is someone? 67 inches. Right, that kind of data that's numeric that has an inherent zero. Like, does the 0 area mean anything? Yeah, it means like there's nothing there. If something is 0 inches long, it means there's nothing there. Okay, so 0 really does mean 0. And you can, and it's called ratio because you can divide them. And that means you can put one in terms of a multiple of another. In other words, this room of 200 square feet is twice as big as a room with 100 square feet. Okay, you could divide those and get 2. 200 divided by 100. So that type of data is called ratio, and that's the highest level of measurement, right? So again, we just looked at data measurement, data classification. The reason we do that is so when we do statistical tests, we can tell what type of tests are appropriate for the type of data we have, all right? So I hope that helps you.